Rage Against the Machine, Ghost, and many others, as well as provide you like sorry. Let's do this again. Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Anti-Shuffle podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm your co-host Mansour, and with me is my co-host Abdullah.
Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in again. If you're listening to us from if you're coming back to us from the first episode, the pilot, thank you for tuning in, and please remember to subscribe, follow, and make sure to tell your friends about us and
Definitely.
help us grow. Anyways, Mansour, we have a lot to talk about today. We have so much stuff to talk about, so there's not a lot of time to just mess around, but we have a lot of interesting news coming out from familiar names and bands like Incubus, Ghost, and even the infamous guitar manufacturer Gibson. And today, in terms of albums and album reviews and singles as well, we're going to be talking about the new Dave Lombardo release. This is something that Mansour turned me on to. I had no idea that Dave Lombardo was releasing a solo drum album. And then we're going to be taking a look at also like a few singles and releases from local artists and international artists. So bands like Cypher, Callous Minds, mixtapes, a new local artist from Saudi, and a bunch of other international artists as well. Like I said,
the main topic for today, Abdullah, which is
we have a pretty interesting topic as well. Why don't you tell us about it, Mansour?
So today we're going to talk. Our topic will be: is there such a thing as a full-time musician? We're going to see how is it possible to rely solely on music for as a main income? And we're going to dive a bit deep into that. We'll give our thoughts and opinions on it.
Like Mansour, like you just said, dude, it's just our opinion. It's just an interesting topic and an interesting kind of conversation to have. So, but Mansour, we're wasting so much time. Listen, we don't have a lot of time here, so let's just. But before we talk about the news, I want to give a very strong shout out to Steel Shout. For being basically our main source for the local news that we get, right? So you might have noticed that, for the news segment, we are always using, these kind of international news outlets like Blabbermouth, the PRP, Metal Ejection, and stuff like that. And for the local news, definitely our main source has been Ace and Steel Shout. So give him a follow, go to his Instagram page and check out the news there. But in any case, here's the news. The news! All right. First piece of news here, which kind of very related to the main topic that we wanted to talk about today. Mansour, get this. The Incubus guitarist is starting a biotech company with his wife.
That's really cool.
I mean, if you thought musicians rely solely on their, music to bring the bread home, you're in for a rude awakening. But I just thought it was really interesting that first of all, usually guitarists and artists, when they do a side hustle or a side business, is something kind of adjacent or maybe related to their, their what they're known for. But this guy is starting a biotech company with his wife. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and they're working on providing some kind of anti-aging skincare product, right? Which
apparently
very interesting.
I wonder if they're going to give it a name that's related to Incubus, a certain shade of green. Pardon me while I anti-age or something.
Or make yourself look better.
Make yourself look younger. Yeah. Make yourself look better. Yeah. Anyways, I always loved Incubus. I always thought they were one of the greatest bands. Unfortunately, like in this new renaissance of old school music and new metal and maybe that era of music, Incubus kind of gets left behind. But yeah, Make Yourself and Science are some of the one of the most interesting kind of alternative metal and rock albums from that era. And I encourage everybody who hasn't heard of Incubus, if I don't know if it's possible to not know Incubus, but yeah, if you haven't, just check them out. Next piece of news here. Primus and a bunch of members from the Queens of the Stone Age, members from as well Primus, or the lead singer from Primus, and members of Tool did a cover of Animal Live. And the only reason why I brought this to our attention here is because I just wanted to mention that I've never really gotten into Primus. I don't know if are you into Primus, Mansour?
Of course. Les Claypool is one of my bass heroes. I love Primus, bro.
Okay, so did you listen to this?
Of course, I watched it, man, and
what did you
loved it. It was like it was a bit surreal because I love all of those bands, and I'm a big fan of all three bands. And to me, I wish I was there,
Yeah. No, it was pretty cool, and it's for a good cause as well. They were basically raising funds for for someone who's battling cancer. Maybe apparently a director or a movie director of some sort. But in any case, if you're a fan of Tool, if you're a fan of Primus, and to a certain extent, I guess if you're a fan of Queens of the Stone Age, listen to this and give it a listen. Next piece of news here, and this is it's inconsequential for us, right? Like we're عايشين هنا في السعودية at the end of the day, man. We're never probably gonna be able to get this sandwich. But the only reason why I really wanted to talk about this is because, one of my favorite bands is going on tour again, Chimera. But I'm really happy to see Chimera go back on tour. I'm not sure if you've ever been into Chimera, Mansour, but like Impossibility of Reason and some of those self-titled albums, the self-titled album that they released, and man, those are some formative albums. Like they were, for me, I felt like yes, they were labeled in the, lumped into the new metal kind of crowd, but for me, they were one of those bands that helped and elevated the metal music during that time, because they were really good at mixing elements of thrash and metal and hardcore as well into whatever, like that era we called new metal era. So really liked them, really liked the albums, and really liked them as performers and musicians.
Yeah, this is great news. All the best to them. I mean, I'm only familiar with their self-titled album. It's been a while since I gave it a listen, but that was a very, very good album. So yeah,
Impossibility of Reason is where it's at for me, honestly. So if you're gonna go back to Chimera, I think check out Impossibility of Reason. That's a really, really good record.
Yeah,
and definitely. There's a sandwich named after them now to commemorate the fact that they're going on tour.
Nice,
awesome. Next piece of news here, and we are both big fans of this band, obviously. So, but you're the one that shared this piece, so yeah, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so Rage Against the Machine got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So congrats to them. It's a remarkable achievement, and I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on the day. But yeah, they've been inducted along with Willie Nelson, Missy Elliott, Kate Bush, George Michael, Sheryl Crow, which I have mixed feelings about when it comes to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Because, I mean, all of those artists, and no disrespect to them, this isn't a dig at them or anything, but they're not really rock and roll or whatever. To me, Willie Nelson, I don't know, he's not, but Missy Elliott for sure, Kate Bush. But yeah, I wish they'd induct more people from the genre, more artists from the genre, because this year both Iron Maiden and Soundgarden came in like fourth and fifth respectively when it came to fan votes, and those guys are more rock and roll than the ones that I'd mentioned. But it is what it is, and nonetheless, we're just happy for Rage Against the Machine and hope in the future to see more bands from the genre get inducted.
Yeah, it's while you were like firing off those names, I'm like, what is this? Like the difference between Rage Against the Machine, Willie Nelson, And Missy Elliott, like the kind of gap there between the type of music that they play, it's kind of astonishing to say the least. So it was kind of bizarre, hearing those names alongside Rage Against the Machine. And whatever, good for them. Anyways, they deserve it. Honestly, think what you will about Rage Against the Machine. I mean, I don't know if anybody thinks negatively about them at this stage. Maybe Tom Morello, like the stuff that he's doing and kind of how he's all over the place with with his like this master classes and stuff that he's doing. But
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine, definitely like legendary status band. Evil Empire, that self-titled album, Battle for Los Angeles. Those are like some of the best albums you could listen to. God, yeah, I love Rage Against the Machine, man. Yeah, and then finally they get their due, I guess.
Definitely.
Next piece of news. I'm never got into this band, and you're the one that shared this piece of news, so I'm not gonna talk here. I'm just gonna listen to you. What's going on here?
So apparently, the band Ghost won the equivalent to the Grammy, the Swedish Grammys Award. I hope I didn't butcher the pronunciation, for their latest album Impera, and they were nominated along with Arch Enemy, Amon Amart, The Halo Effect, and Vatain. So, and apparently they had won this award 3 times before. Great achievement. Congrats to them. Even though personally I'm not into the latest album, I didn't like it that much, but all of their other work is great. I think they're definitely carrying the flag for metal these days, and they're still a young band, so I'm pretty excited for them.
I mean, they're pretty, like, I heard what they like some of their music, and I don't know if I would categorize them as metal. I would more categorize them as near to kind of rock and maybe even rock and roll and stuff like that. And even, I don't know if it's a genre, but it's like very theatrical rock or something, like, because there's a lot of theater in what they do, and the live performances is very theatrical. But definitely I agree with you. They are, I don't like them, subjectively. I don't really like their music, but they are one of the most highest streamed and most popular bands right now in rock, because of TikTok, because of one of their songs, God, what is it called? Mary something. Anyways, it's really popular on TikTok. So I'm not gonna hate on them, definitely, just because I don't like them. But I'm really happy to see that a band is kind of bringing in. I mean, I would credit them with one of those bands that really are causing to people to be more interested in rock, and that resurgence of interest into rock for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Their first album to me was a classic. I really loved it. Had that sort of vintagey kind of 70s classic rock feel.
Yeah,
but it was very dark, and it had really like nice heavy moments. So yeah, I mean they were polarizing. Many people either love them or hate them. But
yes, yeah, they are polarizing. But you can't deny their effect, their impact, and what they're doing for the rock scene. So good for them, Ghost. I mean, I'm not going to say check them out because you probably already have. They're too popular at this stage. Next piece of local news here. Oh my God, what is this? What is this familiar face here, Mansour?
I don't know. Never seen this guy before. Never heard of him.
All right. So just full disclosure, by the way, we need to kind of, before we say anything here, this piece of news involves us in a certain way. So what we have here is that Capital Entertainment, and if you don't know who Capital Entertainment is, they are a local, a kind of a record label and they do kind of events. They record artists. They have some artists on their record label, and they are a studio. They do also workshops. They do a lot of things that are related and adjacent to the creative and artists and music scene. Recently, they posted 2 pieces of videos that are interesting. The first one is from Wolfram, which is a local rock band, and the bassist in that band is Mansour, my co-host here. And if you go on the Instagram page, you can watch the full performance, recorded and mixed and mastered by me. And then also the other band that they have posted is Strangers. I also recorded this performance and mixed and mastered the audio in it. Strangers is a really, really great local band as well. They have an interesting sound. I don't know how to describe it, but they're an instrumental so far. But honestly, they're one of the better instrumental bands that I've heard. They have a very groovy sound, very catchy, very interesting. The music writing is really cool. Really, they're really talented. So I would encourage you to kind of check out this video to listen to what they have, because they haven't released anything yet. But keep an eye out on them. Go follow them on Instagram and stay tuned. So yeah, full disclosure, like you might have heard already, one of these bands involves Mansour, and I'm the one that recorded both of these performances. So go check them out and tell us what you think.
Yes, please do, and leave us your comments. No, we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and also check out Capital Entertainment, obviously, and follow them. They're really doing a good job of kind of, if you go on their page there, you'll see like all of the local artists in the scene. So if you're interested in knowing what's going on in the local scene, who's playing and what do they sound like, definitely here. This is an incredible resource right here. So do check out Capital Entertainment.
Yeah, shout out to them for this quality content. Really awesome stuff.
Absolutely. Next piece of news. So this is really interesting. So apparently, there's a distributor in Dubai called Ava Middle East. They are, they're a distributor and for a bunch of music brands. One of them is Ibanez, the famous guitar manufacturer, and they're holding a guitar clinic for one of their artists, signature artists. One of the Ibanez artists. His name is Ichika Nito. I'm not sure, Naito, or maybe Ichika Naito. I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name, but Ichika Naito is obviously very talented. Like if you go on his Instagram and watch, I don't know if you had the chance, Mansour, to watch some of his videos or listen to some of his music, but he's one of those new modern like age hero, like guitar hero type of artists that can play really amazingly and with a lot of talent on the guitar, right? So a lot of very technical as well, but at the same time very catchy and very with a lot of melody and with a lot of feel, right? I'm personally like, I'd listen to one song or two songs, but then khalas, I cannot listen to anymore because it kind of, there's a certain threshold from, for me with this type of music. But if you're someone who's into someone like, there's also Manuel Fernandez, if you're someone who's into bands like Covet, maybe Chan, if you're into like instrumental, I would dare to say something like Polyphia as well. Then yeah, you might be really into them. In any case, what's interesting is that he's coming to Dubai on the 19th of May for a guitar clinic. So if you're a guitarist in the GCC region or maybe even in the Middle East and you want to attend an interesting clinic, I think this could be something interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's nice to see these kind of clinics happening in the region. I wish we'd get more of them. I mean, I'd love to go to like a bass clinic, from somebody like John Mayong or people of that caliber, like a great bass virtuoso.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really cool to see that. Hopefully more artists come. More kind of big names come and do these kind of clinics in the Middle East and in our region. And hopefully one day we'll see that kind of stuff happening in Saudi as well. So yeah. Ichika Naito, if you're interested, Dubai, 19th of May. Next piece of news we have here is also related to Dubai. And it's actually kind of two pieces of news that that are related to each other. So apparently Metal Fest is organizing a concert or a gig, and a relatively, I guess, big name, you can say, Vader is coming. That's also happening on the oh God, when is this happening? I cannot see the date here. On the 20th of May. It's happening on the 20th of May. There's also a couple of local artists as well in the bill here. So yeah, if you're someone who's a big fan of Vader, I honestly I can't say I am. Are you, Mansour? Did you check out Vader? Do you listen to Vader?
I've heard a couple of songs here and there a long time ago, but no, I can't say I'm a fan of theirs. But I think they're an established name in the genre. So if you're into death metal, yeah, this could be something you'd be excited about.
Absolutely. And just very related to this as well, because it's also related to Middle East records. So they've, during the, I think during Ramadan, they kind of announced that there's going to be a Dubai Metal Festival and that they're opening submissions for all bands. This is, it's already been closed, the submissions for local bands and bands to kind of submit. But I got pretty excited hearing that they're going to do a metal fest. And it kind of reminded me of our Desert Rock days. You mentioned earlier that Incubus, you saw them during Desert Rock. Have you, I kind of missed those days, man. They used to have like so many of these concerts and festivals in Dubai, but then they've kind of, I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe metal at that stage is started becoming less popular and it's not making enough money. So they stopped doing these festivals, but they held some pretty good ones, man. They've held some pretty big names came to Dubai, right? So, So you mentioned though, you went to the one with Incubus. I went there. I was there as well. But the ones that stand out, the names that stand out to me that showed up to Dubai are Mastodon. I cannot believe that I got to see Mastodon live in Dubai. I'm so happy that I got to do that. That was during their, when they were touring for Blood Mountain, I believe. Machine Head.
Oh, yeah.
Testament. Got to see even Megadeth.
Sepultura.
That was that same tour where Machine Head and Sepultura were together. That was really cool because at some point, like during the Machine Head set, he invited the guitarist from Sepultura on stage, and they did a cover of. Do you remember Creeping Death, Metallica?
Creeping Death, yeah. Oh man,
that was so cool.
Such an awesome gig. I remember I attended like 4 of those festivals. Like the first Dubai Desert Rock was kind of a disaster because it was supposed to be Limp Bizkit and Erasmus. I remember, but Limp Bizkit cancelled the very last second. And then we just ended up seeing the Erasmus, who were kind of one-hit wonders at the time. But it was
they had their fans for sure. But
but I mean, it was cool. But the years after that, that festival was just amazing, man. It was Iron Maiden, The Prodigy, with Stone Sour, all those bands played. Yeah, great times. I wish so high energy stuff, man. I wish it would come back. I really, really wish it would come back.
I don't know if this is going to be the same kind of level, right? And I hope it does. I hope like they maybe it does, but it doesn't need to be. Like if you bring in a couple of good bands and then start small and then grow and grow, that's fine. But if they can bring back that same level, like that kind of same big names on one bill like that, and and match that same quality, I'm all for it, man. I would really love to see international and local bands performing on stage.
Yeah, I just remembered something. In one of those Dubai Desert Rock festivals, they Real Big Fish played.
I remember that. Yeah,
remember? And they were sandwiched between all these like super heavy bands. And they came out and they just like completely made fun of those bands. They played like this 1 minute like super heavy I don't know, they're just messing around and like shouting and screaming like and making like all these death grunts. I felt it was so funny, man. It made me laugh so hard.
It's so bizarre. It's such a bizarre thing to see like a ska band performing between all these heavy bands.
Yeah, man. Absolutely hilarious.
But in any case, Mansour, that's it for news. Let's talk a little bit about music, man. We have a bunch of releases. let's kick it off here with the first album release that's on our list, Venomous Concept. This is something that you recommended. Why don't you share with us your thoughts?
Yeah, Venomous Concept, sort of a hardcore, extreme metal kind of band. It's sort of a super group. It features members of Napalm Death and Nuclear Assault and other bands. I love this album. I really, really liked it. It's very heavy, in terms of like being a hardcore and like a metal album. Songs tend to be kind of on the up tempo side, very catchy. There's a bit of humor, injected in their music. Very high energy stuff with like screamy hardcore vocals. But there's also some pop moments here. I felt like the song, what was it called? Fractured. It reminded me a bit. It had like that sort of catchy kind of Foo Fighter-esque feel to it. Yeah, it's a really cool album. And if you're a fan of like bands like Red Fang, the Melvins. In fact, Buzz Osborne played on their first album, the singer and guitars for the Melvins. So yeah, it's a cool album. What did you think of it, Abdullah?
Yeah, definitely. I felt that Melvin's legacy there. But I know, like you mentioned, I was reading about this band and I noticed that he's not there anymore with them. But like his legacy is still there. His like the feel is still there. I dug the overall harshness. That's very obvious because it has members from like Napalm Death and like, or it has a legacy or some kind of touch from Napalm Death, and obviously mixed in with that Melvin quirkiness. Definitely appreciated, yes, those punk elements, but for me overall, like I didn't particularly enjoy the record that much. It's not terrible, but in my kind of rating of things, I'm probably won't listen to it again. But this is for someone who, if you enjoy the harshness of Napalm Death, but always felt like you wanted to be a bit more punk, you wanted to hear what it sounded like if it was infused with a little bit of that Melvin's quirkiness. Timeline was not a bad song for me. That's particularly that song is the song that I enjoyed the most.
Oh yeah, that guitar riff, insane guitar riff there.
Yeah, it's like a little quirky little guitar riff there, and it's upbeat and it's kind of cool. But yeah, for me, I don't know, it felt a little bit too quirky, maybe for my taste.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Next album here that we have, Crown the Empire, Dogma. So I suggested this album. For me, so Crown the Empire is a band that I really didn't like much their previous efforts. I didn't enjoy any of their previous albums, actually. There's only maybe one or two songs that, I was like, oh, okay, these are good. But otherwise, I didn't find their previous albums appealing. However, this album I really like. I really enjoyed this album, and I'm probably going to be listening to it again. Really good. They really nailed it when it comes to how they were able to blend and balance like these, catchy, big poppy kind of, metal sounding elements, but with also heavy elements. Much better at doing this than their previous albums. Tonally, it sounds good as well. Like in terms of the sound of the record, I really appreciate the way it sounded. It had that, it's very modern sounding. So don't, like, if you're not interested in hearing like a very well polished modern sounding album, then this is probably not for you. But at the same time, there's a bit of warmth to it that I appreciated. Tonally kind of sounds like nothing more. They've been releasing as well some pretty good albums as well. Pretty fun and great album to listen to. Really stands out. What stands out for me is the song with Courtney LePlante. And also one thing I appreciate about this album, it taught me something new. Apparently one of the songs features, and it's a good song, by the way, the one with Remington Leith or whatever. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but apparently he comes from a fashion rock band. I didn't know there was a genre called fashion rock.
Okay.
But anyways, good, and definitely would come back for more and listen to this album more.
Yeah, it's the first time I heard of this band. I never heard any of their songs before, but this album, honestly, it's not my thing, but it's not a bad album. I see you kind of holding in that laughter there, Abdullah. Yeah, I mean, I detect a lot of new metal influence there, a lot of Linkin Park influence. I mean, that's the impression I got. It's not bad by any means. I mean, the production is good, but it is super modern sounding, which is yeah. I mean, if that's what you like, then give this a listen. I don't
All
know if
right,
I'll. Maybe I should listen to it again. I don't know. I'll
all
see.
right, Mansour. I have a small surprise here for you.
Oh,
I've developed a Mansour scale
oh
for
my
modern
God.
music. So on the Mansour scale of on the Mansour I am a boomer scale, where would you put this record?
Hmm. I'm
Would you
always a
stick it in your
boomer.
ear hole, or not for you but you would spin again, or is
Hmm.
it good but not for you, or are you just a boomer?
I'm always a boomer. Um, Not for me, but I would go for not for me, but I would spin again just
Oh,
to
okay,
give them a
that's
fair
really
shot
good.
again. Yeah,
That's really good. If you're gonna spin it again, that's really
yeah.
good. All right, there we go. So not for him, but would spin again on the Mansour I am a boomer scale. All right. Next album we have here. This is this is the Dave Lombardo album,
hmm
Rights of Percussion.
hmm
Yeah, please, Mansour, go ahead.
So, Dave Lombardo, famously of Slayer or ex Slayer, let's say at this point,
Co-founder.
legendary
Yeah.
co-founder, legendary thrash metal drummer, legendary metal drummer, I'd have to say. This is his first solo album. It's an instrumental album of where mainly the drums are the main instrument, uh, and it's yeah. I think I read an interview where he says he's trying to showcase his talents as being more than just a drummer who plays super fast. I mean, Dave Lombardo's well known for being very influential in terms of like extreme metal drumming. If you ask probably any drummer from any extreme metal genre, they would probably cite Dave Lombardo as an influence. But here, Dave really tries to, prove the point that he's more than just a metal drummer. It's to me, it's very very experimental, very avant garde, let's say, and it's it's the drums are the hero, but you have other percussive instruments like the bongos and the congas here and there. The songs are very dark, they're very haunting, very atmospheric, almost very cinematic. Like this could work well as a soundtrack to like a thriller movie or something like that. And I just love how like the songs are layered with like a lot of like spooky sounds and these different textures. So if you're looking for like a pure extreme metal drumming, maybe this is not for you. But I think for any drum nerds out there, this album would be like very satisfying. Do check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my thought as well. Like, who is this for? But yeah, like I agree with you. Definitely, like the first thing that struck me or that stood out for me was the fact that it's very ambient. I was slightly disappointed with this. I wanted more. And I'm not saying wanted more, meaning that I was expecting like Dave Lombardo style, like technical, trashy, like stuff and metal and things like that. But I was kind of, for me, first of all, knowing or hearing that Mike Patton was involved in this somehow, not in a I don't know if it's in a creative capacity, but it's in his label. So this
Mhm.
was released under his label, and apparently Mike Patton was the one that was pushing Dave Lombardo to kind of release a drums only album. So I
Yeah.
was like, man, yeah, this is going to be interesting. The only song that kind of for me that reached that potential, and I was like, I wish there was more of it, was Guerrero.
Mm.
Guerrero. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's like the song that stood out for me the most, and I was kind of wishing that the rest of the album sounded a little bit more than that. Definitely
Mm.
has a lot of very tribal sounding, maybe South American kind of, uh, 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 you know, style of drumming and things like that. Um, if you're a drummer, if you're someone who's a big fan of Dave Lombardo and you're okay with listening to something that's not thrashy and metal, yeah, do check this out. But for me personally, I'm just going to be looking forward to maybe then his next album, and hopefully it will be for me something that I would appreciate. So I think with that, we're done with the kind of albums and EPs reviews. Now we have like a bunch of singles to talk about. The first one we have up here is Boris and Uniform. Boris is a kind of very eclectic Japanese. They call them doom rock. I guess, yeah, I can hear it. I mean, the tone is very doom rock sounding, but to me, they sound like if rock and roll wanted to mix like doom, and that's what you end up getting, right? You end up getting Boris. Anyways, this is an album that they are going to be collaborating with a band called Uniform, and this is the first single from that they released. I really like Boris, but for me, sometimes they're a bit too eclectic. They released too much music in at the same time. Like I follow them on Bandcamp, and they're constantly like sending messages and updates about like a new song here, a new EP there, a new album there. I don't know what. But this song was okay. I enjoyed what I heard so far. It has that purposeful kind of low quality production to kind of go with that like kind of raw rock and roll doom rock sounding music. So if you're someone who has like, if you have an appreciation for old school rock and roll rock, and but you wanted like kind of with these modern darker sounding doom elements and aggression, and you like a bit of like punk as well, then definitely give this a listen. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, Boris is kind of unpredictable in that way. I mean, they like to experiment a lot. I don't think they stick with one kind of sound, but they do have a kind of identity in terms of sound wise, in a way. And this song, I got more of a sort of a thrashy. There's a thrash kind of feel to it, but in a very lo-fi kind of Boris way. You know what I mean? I mean they're pretty interesting as a band. I don't know. They have a huge body of work, which I haven't really explored much because it would take me. I have to really dedicate some time to it. But they're definitely an interesting band and one to check out.
For sure. Yeah, check out Boris. Boris and Uniform, Bright New Disease. All right, next song we have here, Brad, and this is something that you recommended.
So, Brad is an alternative rock band from Seattle. It's the side project of Pearl Jam guitarist Stone Gossard. They've been around since the 90s. This is sort of a posthumous release because the singer Sean Smith passed away like a few years ago. So I think this is one of those leftover tracks. It's good. I really liked it. It's more on the darker side when it comes to Brad songs. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I kind of wish they'd made more music when I heard Sean passed away. So it's nice to see them releasing all the sort of tracks that weren't released previously.
The song is called In the Moment That You're Born, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciated everything about the song, except for the vocals. I felt like that was like the weakest part. If it wasn't for the vocals, I would have definitely been more interested in the band, or would have definitely been more interested in listening to the song again. But I love Pearl Jam as much as the next person. But for me, the vocal performance was pretty weak on this. That brought down an otherwise really good sounding song. I really appreciated the sound and the tone of the song overall, but yeah, I couldn't get over the vocals, unfortunately. So next song we have here, Poppy, and I have a feeling that we're going to be bringing up the Mansour scale in a second.
Oh yeah, definitely bring back the scale, my friend.
All right, so Poppy. So what's interesting is that Poppy, the way I discovered Poppy, and there's a lot of people discovered it the same way. I don't know if this happened to you, Mansour, but at some point, did your YouTube inexplicably, like for no reason whatsoever, started showing up YouTube Poppy videos on your subscription feed?
No, not really. I mean, I've heard of her, but I don't think it was. I was getting like I was bombarded with her content on YouTube.
So a couple of YouTube users, and one of them was me, were reporting issues that they were as if you know how you when you subscribe to like YouTube channels and you go on your YouTube main chain, you see like you'll see videos from your recent videos from your subscription.
Yeah.
Poppy, even though I had never like at that point, Taban Poppy was not really that popular, but for some reason her videos were showing up in the subscription feed of every like a lot of people. A lot of people were getting her videos in their subscription feed, even though I'd never subscribed to her, or they like other people as well like me did not subscribe to her.
Okay.
So that's the initial way I discovered her. And her videos used to be like really weird and quirky, just like nonsense stuff, like 30-second videos of her acting weird and things like that. Then she started releasing pop music that had, let's say, disturbing imagery. Okay.
Yeah.
She really came around for me when she at some point released a metal album. Okay. A couple of years ago, I think in 2021 or 2020, she released a metal album called I Disagree. I really liked it. It's a very interesting metal album. It's pretty catchy and really good. I really enjoyed it. She's back now. She's releasing a new album, and so far she has released 2 singles. One of them was called Church Uniform, and it's I encourage you to go listen to that. You might like it because it has more kind of industrial elements. And this is the recent single she released. It's called Spit. And honestly, while I was listening to it, I didn't come to my I didn't realize it, but it turned out to be a Kitty cover. And it did sound really familiar to me because the song Spit, I remember, I really remembered, I used to listen to that song like when it first came out. And I don't know if anybody listening to this is familiar. Kitty is one of the original like all female new metal bands. Like there wasn't a lot of girls in metal back then. And Kitty was one of the like, I don't know how, a handful of, maybe the only new metal band, the all female band. So while I was listening to this, I'm like, man, yes, Kitty had a song called Spit, and it kind of sounds like this. But in any case, I really like the song. Really good cover, really good interpretation of that song. It sounded very like it's almost as if Slipknot would cover Kitty because of the drumming. Like if you listen to the drumming, it almost sounded like a very Slipknot drumming.
Yeah.
Really like the song. Interesting cover. Definitely would listen to again. And I'm really looking forward to the album as well.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I mean it's it's not my cup of tea. But if you're into like loud and abrasive kind of music with screaming female vocals, I mean, I thought the drum and bass kind of sound was interesting, how she incorporated that. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know it was a cover of that song. Honestly, I really did not get that impression. I thought it was her song, but she made it sound like it was her song, and that's I'll give her credit for that because I find it impressive when a band covers a song that makes it sound like it was their song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. Like that's the that was to me like if I wanted to listen to that song and done in the exact same way, then I just go to listen to the original one, right? Yeah. But like if you're gonna cover the song, you should do it in an interesting way, do it in a different way, do it in your own interpretation, and that's exactly what she did. This also reminds me of another band called Primitive Man, which is like a doom, death sludge metal band. They recently they released their last EP has a Smashing Pumpkins cover for the song Quiet.
Wow.
And it sounds also like completely different. Do check it out if you're into that as well. But Mansour, on the boomer scale, how would you rate this song?
Bring back the scale. All right. I would say it's I'm a boomer. I'm going to take the fall here.
So the lowest thing on the scale here, I'm a boomer. So Mansour doesn't like this song, which is okay. He doesn't like to have. He doesn't have to like every song, right? We all have different tastes.
No.
Next song. Oh yeah, we have a local release here. So the project is called The Mixtapes, and it's mainly being led by 2 gentlemen from the local Saudi scene here. Kamal, who you might know him best from a couple of projects. He has a death metal band called Deathless Anguish, and he's also the bassist for Sound of Ruby, the legendary Saudi rock band. The other member of this band as well is Medani. He is a legendary as well, kind of like guitar virtuoso here from the local scene. Kind of think Joe Satriani, kind of instrumentalist, Ibanez guitar player. Like that's what comes to mind when I think of Medani, right? Very interesting project, very interesting. It's an instrumental so far. I don't know if they have plans to include vocals, and I highly encourage them to do so because I feel like what they have here is great. It sounds cool. It's like this 80s vibe, kind of almost Top Gun soundtrack kind of sounding music with a lot of really cool guitar solos and kind of rock instrumentation. But I honestly think they will round it up really nicely if they bring vocals into this equation. I really think they should just find someone here from the local scene who's willing to be featured or very talented, and they can include them to just round up this and make it like really come full circle,
Yeah, I mean if I didn't know any better, I would have thought this song was from an 80s band, and because it has a heavy 80s feel to it, like with the the arena rock kind of tone and the sort of the loud drums and the synths. It seems like these guys are just trying to have fun with that kind of sound, and I was thinking maybe they're watching too much Stranger Things and those kind of shows and movies and stuff. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, I love 80s kind of music. So yeah, this was very enjoyable for me.
Yeah, I mean they're veterans, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say old. I'm gonna say they're seasoned, so they're not really. They've lived the 80s, man. I don't think they've watched Stranger Things. They're like us, they're boomers. So in any case, yeah, do check it out. Very interesting local release here from Saudi. All right, the next song that we have here is also from a regional, let's say, release from a band called Cypher, an Emirati, a band based out of Emirates. The band consists of. So the only gentleman that I know from this band is someone from a solo project called Project Imadi or Imadi in English. Mm-hmm. He's like an instrumentalist. He released like a song like a year ago, I think, a solo song as a solo artist. But in any case, this is his band called Cypher. They released a recent single called Digital Vortex. It's a progressive, like this modern prog metal kind of sound. Think, Tesseract, but with mm-hmm. like the tonality of maybe animals as leaders. What I really liked and appreciated about the song is the vocals for sure. It stood out for me. Like I think the vocal performances is very strong. The overall songwriting and structure is interesting and it's good. The only comment that I would have had is maybe spent a little more time in the studio tweaking the guitar tone a little bit in some parts. Like it kind of it got a little bit muddy in the track. I don't know if this was my perspective only or if you felt that as well, Mansour, but there were some parts where it just got a little bit muddy for me, but otherwise great effort, and looking forward to kind of hearing what other stuff they will release and come up with.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned Tesseract. I definitely think there's an influence there, as well as bands like Intronaut. I really like this song. I really, really like this song. I love that there's some great melodies, the groovy, heavy drumming, the guitar work, the singing was great because, I love how the singer, sticks with one kind of style. He doesn't force the heavy kind of harsh vocals like many bands do these days. They try to overdo the whole let's sing in clean vocals and shift to harsh vocals. So I really, really love that aspect of it. The artwork is also pretty cool for the song. Yeah, I'll definitely check out more of their music.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Again, yeah, the vocals really stood out for me here, and really good job, guys. And yeah, looking forward to their next releases for sure. All right, next release here we got one of my favorite punk bands, recent new punk bands, Spy. Um, really short, straightforward song. Nothing really like it's not complex. It's very primitive. It's straight up punk. Man, I really love this band. I really love the kind of raw, straight up punk sound that just doesn't play around. And the just overall grittiness and dirtiness of the sound and the tone. It has like that maybe I'm not lo-fi, but like yeah, like maybe it almost sounds like purposely low production. Um, really appreciate it and really like it. For me, definitely will be listening to this, and I'm looking forward to the album for sure.
Yeah, it's a short, straight to the point punk song. I really liked it. I thought it was very enjoyable. It's kind of like skater punk in a way. It's like I can imagine like some kids who are into skating might
Sure.
skate along to this. I like the cool bass sound. It sounds a bit distorted. I really, thought that was really cool because not a lot of punk bands, or to my knowledge, distort the bass, but here it sounded a bit distorted, which I love.
Yeah. No, a lot of so yeah, it's maybe I don't know what it's been like before, but all these new modern punk and hardcore bands, like they love their thick, kind of chunky, distorted guitar tones for sure. And yeah, this band does this gritty sound very well. So yeah, if you're into punk, I really do check them out. One of my favorite recent modern punk bands. Next, and again, I have a feeling we're going to be bringing out that boomer scale for this one.
Yeah.
Bring Me the Horizon.
No.
Full disclosure, Bring Me the Horizon is one of my all-time favorite bands. I love them even throughout the kind of the way they change their sound. I might not like every new release that they've had, but for me, up from Suicide Season up until what they've been doing until now, minus a few kind of weird, singles or something like that they've released, I didn't like. I really appreciate everything this band does. Sempiternal is one of the best albums of all time. Ammo, that album that has a really long title that they released during COVID as well is really, really good. The one that has Kingslayer, the song that features Baby Metal. I really appreciate this band. I really like them, and I love how they're evolving and changing. In any case, they released a new single called Lost, and I love this song. I'm going to be listening to the song again and again. I don't care what anybody says. It's kind of a pop punk with hyper pop elements and like this really, really great breakdown in the middle. That's very very gated, very kind of, I would say, like hyper hardcore sounding or hyper metal sounding kind of breakdown that's in the middle. Cool video as well. If you haven't checked it out, like check out the video as well. It's pretty interesting and cool.
Yeah, bring back the scale, my friend.
Yeah, I'm loading it up right now as we speak.
Oh. Okay, I'm gonna go for I'm a boomer again.
You didn't like Bring Me the Horizon the Lost. Do you like any of the Bring Me the Horizon previous releases or anything like that?
I didn't pay much attention to their music, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is too bubblegum for me, I have to say. I think they're definitely going for that kind of vibe. But yeah, this wasn't for me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it is like you said. It's very bubblegum, poppy kind of punk rock kind of sound. Very modern sounding as well. But yeah, on the scale of I Am a Boomer, I guess it's I Am a Boomer for Mansour.
Oh.
So again, the lowest scoring point here. Well, maybe one day. I mean, so far we've gotten you to say that you would spend something again, but yeah, let's see. Let's see. All right, next release we have here Burner.
Mm-hmm.
Burner is a band that really does a good job of mixing hardcore, metalcore, and even black metal elements in their song. And this song is, they've had some pretty they've had singles before, and they leaned more towards the kind of hardcore and metalcore sound. But this song starts off and kicks off with like you think that they're a black metal band.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a big fan of black metal, but I do appreciate some bands that have that sound, like Thou, Full of Hell, like who else? A couple of other bands like I can't think of right now. But Burner is one of those bands that have that sound, that have like incorporate some elements of that sound, but they do it in such a good way. I really like this song, and I really like this band. Do check them out if you're interested in any of the genres that I mentioned, like a combination of those. Really good band.
Yeah, this band is just insane. I mean, the singer especially is the one that stood out for me because he shifts from different vocal styles. 1 second he's singing in like this black metal kind of screechy style, then he shifts to like a hardcore singing style, then he switches to death grunts, all in one song. The band as well follow. I mean, it's pretty insane in that sense. If you're looking for something that combines all of those elements, you should check this band out. They're just insanely good at that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do check them out. Burner. All right, next song here. We have Corrosion of Conformity. I haven't heard that name in a very long time, and I was pleasantly surprised to see them on the list when you added them. So yeah, tell us please about this song, Mansour.
Yeah, so this is Corrosion of Conformity. They're I would say they're a legacy act at this stage. They started out as a hardcore band in the 80s, then they shifted styles to more of a sludge rock kind of sound. And this is a cover of a Lynyrd Skynyrd song, but they performed it. Going back to our point of what's a good cover song, they've managed to really put their mark on it. They made it sound like it was their song. So yeah, it's a cool kind of song to listen to if you're into like sludge metal. I love Corrosion. I think they're great musicians. So yeah, this is a cool song.
I mean, I'll be very honest with you. I'm not a big fan of Lynyrd Skynyrd, and I'm not a big fan of his songs. So this song really didn't do anything for me. But objectively speaking, it sounded good. I appreciated the way it sounded. I appreciated the way it was performed. And it made me kind of want to go back and listen to Corrosion of Conformity again, because they are a great band. And they are, I believe, yes, like you mentioned, a legacy band at this stage. So yeah, if you're a big fan of Lynyrd Skynyrd or Corrosion of Conformity, yeah, I do encourage you to check this out. Last release here. We have a local release as well from a local band. Not a local band in Saudi, a local band regionally, I'm speaking. They're a band based out of Emirates. They are called Callous Minds. Okay, and they just released a new single called Left Us Dead. A band in the vein of prog metal, modern metal sounding kind of band. If you're into the modern sound, if you're into a bit of gent, if you're someone who is a big fan of Periphery, like these new bands like Spirit Box, Era, Architects, any of these new modern metal bands, then this will be right down your alley. The first thing that stood out to me, honestly, when I heard this song was the production value. Mm-hmm. Super high production value. Well done to them, man. Like I don't know if it's if it's self-produced or it was produced with someone in Emirates or it was a studio in Emirates or something. I mean, they mention it here in their credits. It was mixed and mastered by someone. His name is Twaller or something. I'm not sure what his name is, and I went on his profile and it's private, so I couldn't really get any more information. But good for them. Really high production, really well done. Keep it up. The song as well itself is while it's not for me, when it comes to modern sounding bands, like the bands that I mentioned, I'm pretty selective. So for example, the new Periphery album, when it came out, I really did not enjoy it at all and I didn't like it, but I know that these guys probably do, right? So objectively, just looking at the song, I really appreciated the structure of the song. Really interesting how they go from singing to kind of the heavier parts. it's well done, objectively speaking. Think about how you kind of would push this genre forward. Think about how you would push yourselves to innovate in this space and create something new and interesting that will put them on the map. But yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing or hearing the rest of their stuff and output and album.
I like the chunky riffs and the vocals. I wasn't aware that they had two vocalists in the band, so that's pretty cool. I have to give it a few more listens to familiarize myself with it, but I liked what I heard. I'm actually curious to hear what their album, to see what the rest of the songs sound like.
Yeah, definitely good effort. Really liked what I heard so far. And I'm hoping to hear more from them for sure.
Yeah, are they playing like 7-string guitars or 8-string guitars?
It definitely sounds like it. The sound definitely has that tone to it. Like the modern like 7-string kind of band kind of sound.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And that's it for releases and reviews. All right. Next. All right. So on to our main topic for today. As Mansour has mentioned on the top of the podcast here, today we wanted to talk a little bit more about being a full-time musician. So today we're experiencing a big growth in the music industry here in Saudi. So, for example, Mansour is in a band and they perform live regularly. I myself, I'm a solo artist. I don't perform live, but I do. I'm trying to set up and trying to establish myself as a kind of producer, mixing engineer, and provide my services to the local scene as well here in Saudi. And we're starting to see a kind of a boom and a resurgence of music here in Saudi, with more venues opening up, more artists coming out. I mean, you see it in our like news segments here. You're starting to see a lot of like local artists and local musicians. You're starting to see more people wanting to perform and wanting to write music and release albums and perform live and be musicians. So we wanted to kind of talk about something related to that, and I'm sure we're not breaking any grounds here, right? And this is going to be obviously our opinion, our humble opinion. So we're always open to discussions. Like we said, please, comment on our on this video or on our Instagram posts, or even like feel free to email us and DM us and tell us about your thoughts and opinions about this topic after you hear it. But is it possible to be a full-time musician in this day and age? In short, in my opinion, I think it's not. At this stage right now in our climate, there is no such thing as a in some cases there is, obviously there are cases here and there, but I don't think there is a full-time musician. And we're obviously talking about the alternative metal and rock genre here specifically, right? This is the area that we're passionate about and we're talking about. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the local scene, what's happening internationally. We're talking about and our conclusions in the end. But in general, what are your thoughts, Mansour?
Yeah, as you said, I mean, the short answer is no. Especially if you're an upcoming band or artist, first, you have to treat this as some kind of a business. You have to put your name out there, build your brand and your band. As much as people don't like to hear these words, but you really have to do, because you're trying to gain an audience. You're trying to put your name out there, and you need to the basic income for any band would be music streams or album sales, and then merch sales and touring. Like, those are the three main sources of income. So you really have to put your name out there. You have to, work hard in the beginning, and that will always come at a cost. It's not easy. But even when you are more established, you have to still work hard in maintaining and building those things. And it's becoming more and more difficult in this climate.
It's kind of interesting because what we have right now, what's happening in Saudi, is that things are being built from scratch, and it's like still in its infancy. So, but things are growing rapidly as well at the same time. So it's kind of like you don't know what should come first and what we should do first. We should the artist release albums and gain the following in order to be able to go on tours, or should we start promoting the music scene more so that more people are interested in the music, and they start, we start selling tickets and getting like more traffic into these venues and events, so that more interest is generated for these bands, so they are more interested in touring and it's like a vicious cycle.
Absolutely. And even if you write like the best music ever, you still need to have a good business sense of how to promote it, how to distribute it, how to put your name out there. You need to have that sort of good business sense. But even if you're an established name, you still, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. We know of many musicians in the scene who do just that. They have different. We talked about the guitarist from Incubus venturing into other industries and interests. So yeah, it's just the way it is. It's not an easy field to make lots of money.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, we're not breaking any new grounds here. For example, here, like I pulled up an article here from Misha Mansour, the one of the co-founders and the lead guitarist from the band Periphery. He has come out on record and multiple times. Like this article is from 2018, but as recent as like 2021 and 2022, he's been showing up on podcasts and interviews where he had talked about how there is, like, for Periphery as a band, it's not a lot of money, even as a band as big as Periphery, who is very popular, and they get a lot of streams and they sell out events and tickets, and they have a lot of a strong following. They still, as a touring musicians, the money that they make from touring and music alone is not enough. The example of Misha here is a good one because he's actually more of an entrepreneur really than a musician, right? He started off as Periphery. Actually, well, he started off as Bulb, as a solo artist, like really gaining a lot of following and popularity on 7-string forums and things like that. And then obviously the band Periphery comes out, building on his reputation and popularity, and that's when he gained the following. After that, you started seeing like kind of the side things that he's been doing. So for example, he has a plugins company that sells plugins for people that do mixing and producing, and VST plugins like Get Good Drums, and also he had like a business that he set up selling, or he still has actually. They sell pedals and effect pedals. He himself on the side as well does a lot of like guitar clinics and production and mixing clinics as well. So he's not fully relying on his band for income. Another example of this as well is someone like Tosan Abbasi from Animals as Leaders, who gained a lot of popularity as the new one of the best guitarists and modern guitarists in the world right now. But he didn't just rely on music, so he started a guitar company where he's like selling like these high-end guitars called Abbasi Guitars, and now he has collaborations with Music Man. All of these musicians are doing something different on the side to complement their income. Even the big ones, like the ones we mentioned, like Misha Mansour.
It just comes to show how you need to really be smart and diversify your income as an artist. But even as a band, we've seen bands venture into different types of products and things like that. Like Iron Maiden now has a mobile game, right? Which is not very typical for a metal band. But we're talking about Iron Maiden here. It just comes to show how there's different ways of promoting yourself. Here you see Megadeth. They've gotten into the business of NFTs, and their NFTs sold for $18,000. So you have to be creative and look for different ways of promoting your band, because album sales and merch sales alone won't cut it.
Let's be honest, our type of music and this genre that we're in does not drive enough traffic and does not drive enough sales in order to warrant for you to get paid enough to be a like a touring musician even, or like a performing musician, especially here in the context of Saudi as well. So metal and rock musicians here, simply put, do not get compensated enough to perform live. And we know this, from sources, from people we know that play live in the rock and metal scene. The amount that they get compensated for, and I'm not saying that it is right or wrong, but at the same time, it's a reflection of how much sales they can drive in terms of tickets. And when you go to these venues, usually you don't see, maybe a big audience or a strong, appearance, right, of people coming to watch. So they don't drive enough revenues for them to get paid a lot. Yeah, and it's something that happened over the weekend that I noticed. There was a performance by a local band here at a venue called the Warehouse. And from the videos that I saw, there was a lot of people there. And they did a good job of promoting themselves. So there's a lesson to be learned there. It's, maybe, bands and artists need to work on promoting themselves in order to drive that traffic to their events. Compared to what's happening in the electronic music scene in Saudi, the numbers we drive are nothing. So I was trying to find like numbers of sales of typical sales for Middle Beast, and apparently like in terms of numbers, like they have like hundreds of thousands of people showing up to these gigs and venues. Granted, they're getting bigger names, but because they're getting bigger names and they're able to drive that large traffic, the local artists that show up and play at these venues get paid also more. Anywhere between like 8,000 to 30K as a local Saudi EDM or electronic musician. Which are numbers that I don't think any local rock artist here that performed live has ever seen.
Yeah, but that's the thing with our genre. It's not as popular as EDM or electronic music. That I think has a bigger audience. It draws more people.
But there are things that we can do in the local scene to drive more interest, so that when we hold events and when we hold metal and rock gigs and things like that, you get more people, you get more engagement, and there's a culture around it, and there's a community, and that that when you set up a gig, you're gonna have fans, and you're gonna have ticket sales, and it's something that is sustainable and profitable and makes money, right? I hate to sound like I'm a businessman or talking about it from a perspective of business, but at the end of the day, it needs to make money in order for it to thrive, or for us to thrive in the scene. So from my perspective, I feel like we need a stronger ecosystem. So people like Steel Shout, we need more news outlets that talk about what's happening in a local scene, to drive interest into what's happening in the local scene, and to drive more eyeballs on these bands, and to drive more fans towards them, so that when they announce that they're going to play a gig, people are more likely to go and watch and buy the ticket and go watch this band. We need also an ecosystem and a community. So we need more podcasts like ours. We need more people like Adnan and from Dubai and Unmuted. We need more Instagrams account like KSA Rock and Metal Scene. We need more people like Cairo Metal on Instagram. We need I Want to Rock, like from Egypt as well. We need more stuff like that, to build the culture and to build the interest into what's happening, and to create those content creators that will drive the interest into the scene.
Yeah, definitely. And but even then, you still need to work hard on getting a strong stream of income from your music, here and there, and maybe in outside, and where bands like in markets where like Periphery and all those bands operate, it's very competitive, it's very saturated. But it's also it's interesting to see how some of the more established acts are, like Megadeth and Iron Maiden and Periphery and all those bands, how they're venturing into other types of whether it's of interest and so for and things like that for their music, and their side hustles, if you will.
Yeah.
Although it's interesting to see how those bands are approaching it. Yeah, I mean, bands are trying to be more and more creative with them. Some bands are selling their publishing rights to their songs. I'm talking
Right.
about huge legendary acts, but that's maybe a topic for a different discussion.
Right. But to build on that, so like, okay, so how if big artists are doing this, then what would a local artist or someone who's doing this as a hobby can do in order to kind of diversify? I would say explore other ways that you can make money as well from this as a musician or someone who's into it. So you could, if you're someone who مثلا knows how to play guitar, you could start, maybe tutoring or giving lessons. Another aspect as well, we need session musicians. So maybe, build a website and build a kind of your services as a session musician. Say, you know what, I'm a guitarist, I'm a drummer, I'm a bassist, whatever it is. You can hire me for, I charge this much per hour and I will play live for you, or I will record bass line, guitar lines, drum lines for you, whatever, so that you can use it for your recording and music. I'll use my own personal example. Something that I'm trying to do as well is, I think I mentioned this earlier as well, develop my portfolio and develop myself as a producer and mixing engineer and provide my services to the local scene in that way. So always, for now, for the time being, you'll always have to find something on the side to do in order to complement and supplement. And maybe eventually down the line, it could be a stronger source of income. But for now, really, as a musician, in conclusion, it's a side hustle. You're never, keep your day job, have a career. If you're younger as well, focus on your studies, focus on what it is that you want to do with yourself and with your career and as a job. Don't live this pipe dream that you're going to be a big band and you're going to make, you're just going to be a musician and in a band and tour and make money from it, because at this stage, that's not going to happen. Unless there's a fund that they set up that supports, that gives income or a monthly salary for, musicians in order to be musicians, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. Just focus on your career and make this into the best side hustle you can possibly make.
Absolutely. And try to have a good business sense of how to manage those income streams, how to promote your name, your band, all of those things. That will come a long way. I think even the channels for promotion, they're getting, I wouldn't say easier, but they're becoming more accessible, right?
Yeah.
So, just try to learn as much as you can about those things. And, who knows? I mean, there's a touch of luck involved with, how people perceive your music at the end of the day too. So the more audience you gain, the better, the more your name will go out there. But you need to focus a lot on writing good music, making good music.
Yeah,
and that's not easy. That's I think one of the more difficult parts. But I mean, we can go on and on about this. I mean, there's so many factors, whether it's internal or external factors, that will determine the success of your career as a musician. So I mean, it's a long subject.
If I was to summarize what we just discussed, we're never going to be as big as EDM and all these really popular genres, right? But what we can do is we can do things to enhance it by creating a stronger ecosystem and a stronger community around this genre in order to drive more interest into it and to get more fans and to get more people to buy tickets. And so that when a band like Strangers or Muz'ij or Wolfram or Callous Minds or whatever it is, when they announce that they have a gig, it drives sales, it drives tickets, it gets people to want to come. Maybe it even gets sponsors, and that way it can help even get more of a stronger payout to bands so that they can be more interested in performing live and making music as well. Additionally, don't think that you can be a full-time musician. Always focus on your career. Always think about being a musician as a side hustle for now and as something that complements your main source of income. Because even big musicians right now are not focusing on it as their main source of income. They're using as well, they're thinking about side hustles and businesses on the side that can supplement that. And finally, as a smaller musician, not a big musician who can start a company, a guitar company or a pedals company or whatever, maybe think about becoming a session musician, think about tutoring, think about doing workshops, think about providing your services to others, whatever it is that can bring value to this growing scene that we have.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that, I think we wrapped up our second episode here, Mansour. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and for listening. Don't forget, if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts, suggestions, you can always email us at hate.mail@antishuffle.com. If you're a band that has a demo or a song that you want us to either listen to, or if it's a piece of news that you want us to talk about in our news segment, please email us and share it with us. And we will gladly and happily listen to it and talk about it during the show. If you have any suggestions, opinions, topics, if you have any feedback on the topic that we talked about today, please feel free to email us or even just write a comment on our social media, on Instagram, on our YouTube channel where this will be posted. Yeah, we will reply, or we will even talk a little bit about it on the show. We will also, in our description, have all of the links to our social media and all of our platforms. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and follow us, and to stay up to date on our latest developments and the next episodes.
No, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all of that. Follow us on our socials at AntiShufflePod, which we'll be providing the links to. And see you next time.
Yeah, I've been Abdullah. He has been Mansour. Stay against the shuffle. See you next week.